Oh, hello. Who was this episode brought to you with the support of? Why, it's only our bloody backers over at patreon.com/cinemaswirl. At the time of me saying this to you, there are 15 episodes of our bonus exclusive monthly show, Cinema Swill, where Kevin and I review some really terrible movies. Recently, we covered Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, and oh boy, was it a wild ride. Kevin and I have also been sitting down and having a right laugh answering some of our patrons' questions, and we've been releasing them as kind of bonus mailbag episodes. If you want to see what's available, how to sign up, all those kinds of things, then head on over to patreon.com/cinemaswirl. It's the best way to support your OTPs. Right, should we get swirling then?
Cinema Swirl! Ara, take that shite back to Ballymun. It's episode number 61. Hello everyone again. It's me, your old pal, Cowboy Kevin, saddling up through the desert that is Hollywood, California, with my OTP Sam Chaplin as we traipse through the prickly boneyard of all the cactuses that are full of the nourishing liquids of Hollywood film magic.
Hello. So I thought the bones were prickly themselves, and that we were stumbling upon a boneyard of like particularly sharp people who had like
there are bones and there are cacti in this place. Like I think I was trying to show that there's all sorts, isn't there, in Hollywood? Sure,
bone-eye and cacti. You said bones there, and I didn't want to correct you, but
sorry.
It is a bit embarrassing. That
we want to get the nomenclature right.
Yeah.
Sam, how are you doing? Are you excited to watch another film that you have not seen?
I'm always excited to watch another film that I haven't seen, and on this edition of Cinema Swell, we're going for the works of Mr. Eddie Murphy.
The works. Oh, man, the works of Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
This is, like, probably, I think when we were growing up, was one of the most undisputed names in Hollywood, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Eddie Murphy was, like, I want to say he eclipsed even Jim Carrey, it felt, in early childhood. The crown was maybe taken, but...
So we're different ages, but we were children in the 1990s and early 2000s, and I think... if you were in that position, it was very hard to get away from Eddie Murphy. And that sounds weird. but his presence loomed large, I think, as a family entertainer, I felt. That he was in kids' films a lot of the time. Oh,
yeah, and he was also in kids' films, and then he was obviously in a lot of family movies, and he was also in a lot of like comedies that were beloved by mom and dad, and then kind of were passed down and whatnot. Because I mean, Eddie Murphy was just one of those names that I feel that whether or not you liked him had very little to do with the fact that you were going to see a lot of him during that time period.
Yeah. There was a lot of him. I remember him invariably playing all the characters a bunch of times in films. I think that was one of his main strengths, was that he had so much range, he would play everyone. Is the Nutty Professor the gimmick of that he's in all he's everyone in all of it?
In Nutty Professor, he plays a load of side characters, but in the Nutty Professor 2, The Clumps,
he is all
of those characters get a much bigger
clumps.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It becomes a clump club, and we get a much bigger ensemble cast of Eddie Murphys. But Eddie Murphy plays both the protagonist and the antagonist in that movie, which did find itself on that list and not coming to America. And I should just say, this does happen now and then, but there are some movies that I've not seen, and Coming to America is one of them. So that's why that's not on there, even though it's obviously a better movie than Nutty Professor or Nutty Professor 2, Clumps in the House.
Yeah, there was a little bit of, not backlash, not outrage, but...
a little bit of clumplash, though. A wild bit of clumplash.
We all get a bit of that from time to time. It's hard to maintain things down there. There was a little bit of confusion and concern that we hadn't put Coming to America in the list, but that's just because Kevin hasn't seen it, and sometimes you haven't seen all films ever.
No, I never portrayed as such.
Well, you did a few times at the start of this year. I've seen all the films, and Sam's seen none of the films. No, I've seen some films sometimes.
That was the old intro, though, wasn't it? It would say, "Hi, I'm Kevin Mann, and I'm Sam Chaplin. I've seen all of the films, and I haven't seen any films." And welcome to Cinema Swirl. It had a great flow, I felt that,
Yeah, that was the classic intro for Cinema Swirl. But Right, so Eddie Murphy, family entertainer, is the vibe that I got from him in my childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, Shrek is a big deal for me as a child, and he was Donkey in Shrek, and we all loved Shrek, right?
And he was also the sassy dragon in Mulan as well, if memory serves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Eddie Murphy, like, he did find himself voicing a lot of things as well. He was just like an omnipresence at points.
Yes, but later on in my life, I kind of, discovered, I didn't really pay attention to his earlier work in terms of stand-up comedy.
Considered to be one of the greats, Sam. Many had asked if either you or I had seen Raw, Eddie Murphy's original stand-up movie, which people were wondering about.
Well, in all of those sort of Channel 5 list things of the greatest stand-ups of all times that runs till about 1 a.m. and it takes fucking ages.
We have watched those for sure.
We have watched those. We were both stand-up comedians and we were interested in the world of comedy and stand-up, and Eddie Murphy, again, looms pretty large in that world. However, the suit, the outfit that he wore, iconic. And
when you started saying I and you put the emphasis on I there, I was going to say I own one of those.
I've got one. And I'm wearing it right now.
We stopped doing stand-up when our leather suits tarnished and perished because of exposure.
Yeah. That is the image that stays in my mind. The material itself...
Wait, the leather or the actual jokes?
Okay, the leather material is fine. He doesn't do any material about leather as a material. The jokes that he tells, I'm sure, still have some appeal to some people these days. However, I think some of it has aged particularly poorly, is the sense that I get.
Absolutely. I've not watched Raw, but I knew people who were big fans of it.
Yes,
and let's just say those people in 2010 was kind of like you wouldn't really want to watch that. And that's fucking 2010.
Yeah.
Which, according to recent polls, is 100,000 years ago.
It's a long time ago. And when we hung around with comedians, some people would really put that on a big pedestal. And I'm sure it's an important thing. But some of the lines that I would hear repeated to me, I just can't,
I think there's an obvious aged poor quality with, I would say, you could look back from any kind of stand-up comedian whose thing was #controversy in the 80s and 90s, and it's always gonna age really, really badly. I'm sure there's loads of comedians you could go back and look at his contemporaries, and I couldn't imagine that he's sticking out particularly badly, considering his compatriots included the likes of Andrew Dice Clay and stuff,
But what I will say is that in my mind, in my experience, the two worlds of Eddie Murphy that I've experienced or have knowledge of are family film entertainer, funny, larger-than-life personality, big budget family films, and kind of controversial, really out there stand-up comedian doing some, I guess maybe at the time, brave material, maybe now poorly aged material, but I haven't seen anything of the in-between stage, or even his movie career before he became family entertainer man.
So you just know the two halves as being one is stand-up comedy on a razor's edge, essentially, and the other one is within the pillowy bosom of rated PG entertainment.
And I get the sense from a narrative point of view in terms of someone's life, there must be something in between those two places, right?
He's an odd fellow, and I mean that's the most broad definition of it I could give. He's someone who I've heard loads of random little tidbits of, from the Attitude podcast, which is a show I do where I look at wrestling from the 90s. His name would come up a few times when they wanted to say something a little bit edgy on commentary.
No, mate, you've been looking up the wrong Raw there. That was WWE Raw that's on telly.
So with him, his name would come up because I think much like Hugh Grant and a few contemporaries, his was the name that came up in the tabloids and the scandals. I know he was caught with a trans sex worker at some point, and that in the 90s was a huge big scandal and all that. But the thing about me with Eddie Murphy is I'm aware of those two parts that you are, and I've seen a lot of Eddie Murphy's stuff, and obviously his stuff that kind of came after his stand-up would have been things like SNL and things like that, which is maybe slightly broader, and some of the movies he made in SNL I think certainly had very broad appeal and very well remembered. But the Eddie Murphy that always strikes me these days is this kind of weird, sad kind of Eddie Murphy who disappeared from the limelight for 5 or 6 years. And I know he's back now and doing stuff on Netflix and things like that. He did a Dolomite movie, which is meant to be really, really good.
Okay.
But the main thing I think about Eddie Murphy is, and I think this is something you'd be really interested in, do you remember when they brought him back to host Saturday Night Live, it was a couple of years ago, and they brought him back, and it was like, Eddie's going to do Saturday Night Live. Can you believe it? Because he's not done it literally since, way back in the 80s when he first left, and he never talked about it. And they brought him on, and, when you do Saturday Night Live, you expect the host to do a monologue, he does some jokes, he does a few skits. Eddie decides at the last minute he's not going to do any of the skits, and he comes out at the start of Saturday Night Live, ladies and gentlemen, welcome the legend, Eddie Murphy. And he comes out and he goes, wow, man, unbelievable. Whew. Saturday Night Live was so important for my career, and I want to thank everyone, all the guys in the back, Lauren, everyone. Wow, it's unbelievable what we accomplished here. And wow, guys, thanks for coming out. And that was it. And that was his return. And he's like, that's the Eddie Murphy in my head. This weird guy, kind of like how John Travolta, I view him as well now, that he's somehow in this like prison of his own making of Hollywood rumor and like scandal, and he's trapped in something, and I don't know what it is.
But he's definitely trapped somehow.
Yeah, and he's definitely been hurt by fame, I think.
And we haven't really touched on the fact that he's a talented guy, and he's funny.
Don't get me wrong, he is crazy talented.
Because I know I've been like, he did the clumps and he did some stand-up that's a bit awkward now.
But he's also a weirdo.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, he's got the energy, right?
I mean, on those stand-up lists, he was near the top. He must be doing something right. And those family films. I mean, Donkey from Shrek means a lot to a little Sam Chaplin.
So it's safe to say he put a smile on your face as a child.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm curious about this younger Eddie Murphy before he became family entertainer, but maybe after or at the same time as he was controversial firebrand comedian. What was he up to? And I feel like the winning film, which is Beverly Hills Cop, might be in that place.
Oh, it is absolutely. This is Hollywood saying, "Hey, everyone, Eddie Murphy's open for business. He's like the next big star. Get used to this kisser. Because he absolutely took the whole entertainment world by storm, I think, with this movie. Okay. And Beverly Hills Cop is something. It's a movie that has got many sequels, and I kind of feel that sometimes it does get lost a little bit in the shuffle of people just lump it in with like kind of action movies like Lethal Weapon and the types of things that Last Action Hero are making fun of, but very much has its own style and very much is a vehicle for Eddie Murphy. And I think he comes across like, I think you'll understand why he was atop of the mountain of Hollywood for so long after seeing this movie.
I don't know much about what happens in this other than I believe Eddie Murphy is a cop.
Yeah.
And,
the setting, any clues or...
It's in the Beverly Hills zone from Sonic.
And do you know the music, though? There's an iconic music from Beverly Hills Cop.
No.
Beverly Hills, that's where I want to police. Hey, be in a Beverly, please. And I like that because, I mean, obviously this movie, Beverly Hills Cop, is like I said, it's the pinnacle of the mountain for Eddie Murphy. And obviously as well with Weezer, this was them basically saying, guys, Weezer's open for business. Beverly Hills, probably, I'd say, the number one single from Weezer of all time, probably. I mean, if you ask most like proper critics, that's what they tell you.
Commercially, yes.
Really?
Yeah. Beverly Hills is like...
Pop. I thought the one with the Muppets would have done better than that.
No. Beverly Hills is like Weezer's biggest single in terms of commercial performance, I believe. And that, maybe Buddy Holly, but it was really up there. It was a smash hit.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, it was a hit.
I hope to listen to it someday, but I've only ever heard 20 seconds of it. Then my brother going, "Ugh," and change into Kerrang instead. So, I imagine it's fun.
Was he flicking over from MTV2 over to Kerrang?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know the 4-5-3, 4-5-4, 4-6-2 split. I know that dance.
This is a sidebar. But on that note, switching between MTV2 and Kerrang, which is what I used to do, and sometimes Scuzz. Did you have Scuzz?
Oh, I had Scuzz, but I mean, Scuzz was kind of like, that's the Hail Mary pass if you're passing to Scuzz. That was how it was for me,
November Rain by Guns N' Roses, I'm not a fan. Right, and that song lasts a long time. So when that would come on one of those channels, I'd switch to the other one. But there were multiple instances where I switched over from November Rain on MTV2 to November Rain on Kerrang, and I was always devastated. So I just wanted to get that out there. Sorry, Guns N' Roses fans. I'm sure it's a good song to you.
I mean, they've been on their high horse for a long time. They need to be taken down a peg or two, as far as I'm concerned.
Now Axl's back, what have they got to worry about? Or Slash is back. I can't remember which one is back. They're back. But, right, Beverly Hills Cop, I don't know what happens.
Wait, you don't know the actual music, though?
No. And now, is this... wait, hold on. I have one thing that I think I might know, but I might be embarrassing myself and it might be something else.
Okay.
Does this have funny sound effects in it?
Funny sound effects?
Yeah. Does it have like a guy who does funny sound effects?
Sam, you're not mixing up fucking Police Academy with Beverly Hills Cop.
I think
For fuck's sake, Sam!
I think these are not the same thing.
No, they're not. No.
But there's lots of sequels of this.
But they would have followed the same trajectory. If they got to Beverly Hills Cop 7, he would have had a mission to Moscow for sure. That would have happened.
So this isn't the funny sound effects one?
No, it's not the funny sound effects one.
In that case, I don't know anything about the music from this. Now that you've said Police Academy, I'm like, of course it's Police Academy. But they were, in my mind, it all got mixed up. So,
yeah, a bit of a muddle there, Sam. Bit of a muddle.
Bit of a muddle. So this isn't the funny sound effect one. So no. He's a cop. He's in Beverly Hills. I don't know beyond that. That's it. It's Eddie Murphy.
And is this one as a matter of interest, because you're a few years younger than me, so I kind of feel like I only caught this kind of this is, I would say, at the outer limits of the natural reach of the zeitgeist for this movie.
Right.
When I saw this originally. So I don't know, is this something your brother or your pop or any friends or folks who've been watching? Because this all quite on the Western Front in terms of Beverly Hills Cop once I went to university, really, I felt.
I've not really heard much about it, but I know, in my later years that it's an important film. And obviously, I mean, even just from the vote, it did very well in terms of people picking it, and it's an iconic Eddie Murphy film, from what I can tell.
What type of a movie are you expecting? Are you expecting straight out laughs? Because we got electronic music, Eddie Murphy, in pole position here. Are you expecting this just to be, lots of laughs, smiles, and good times?
I assumed it was a comedy.
Okay.
It could not be, but I mean, why would you get Eddie Murphy in if you're not prepared for some laughs? But it could be like an action comedy.
What level of comedy now are we thinking? Are we thinking like bit of Blue? Are we thinking a bit of Blue with Eddie Murphy, given this is an early film and he had edgy material, generally speaking, in his act and whatnot? Or do you think this is going to be more mainstream, cuddly SNL, palatable Eddie Murphy?
I don't know. I don't think this is going to be cuddly necessarily. So maybe a bit of Blue. Maybe a bit of red. Or that's just the police lights, am I right?
Hey!
I'm not sure, really, about what the level is for this in terms of the comedy or where it's pitched. But this feels like more of an adult film than... This is not like a family feature, I don't think.
Yeah, I definitely would say the sequels take more of a... If I recall correctly, it's been so long since I've seen this. Honestly, I don't think I've seen this since I was a teenager.
Okay.
But I recall that the sequels do take a more comedic or mainstream approach than this one. This has got more teeth to it, this movie, if I recall. Well, we've got a little bit of a handle on Beverly Hills Cop. It's where we want to be, but where I want to be right now is right up in that mail sack bag.
Hello, welcome to the mail sack bag. This first question comes in... both of these questions, and there's only two, and I shall tell you for why later, come into cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
At Cinema Squirrel...
I think I said Cinema Swirl wrong.
I accidentally said Cinema Squirrel, and they've been getting a lot of our emails recently.
The mailbag's just full of nuts, isn't it? All these cinema squirrels have been putting nuts in there.
Well, okay, if these questions, if we don't get through them all, can we bury them later for winter? Yeah. Okay, that's cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
cinemaswirl@gmail.com. This first one comes in from Michael, who says, on the last episode there was a discussion about physical media packaging, and I just wanted to chime in with what I think about packaging and how lucky you guys are.
Oh, this touched quite a nerve with the fan base, didn't it?
Yeah, people got involved. I'm an avid Laserdisc collector, and one of the reasons I love them is because of the LP or record-like packaging. It's thin, it's easy to store, and has really great artwork. With Laserdisc dying in the early 2000s, I thought this packaging style for movies was gone and done forever. But it's back and only really available in the UK at Tesco's. It's called Big Sleeve, and it's fantastic. You get the DVD, the Blu-ray, and a bunch of artwork in a nice thin LP-sized cardboard package. Disney's done a bunch of them. There's Marvel movies, there's Back to the Future. Unfortunately, Michael lives in the States and has to buy from importers. Well, I assume you guys, that's us, can just go to our local Tesco and pick them up. What do you guys think of this kind of packaging? What movie would you like to see give the big sleeve treatment?
I remember back when I lived in Glasgow, there was a great little charity shop that just did records and movies and stuff, and they had a really dedicated staff in there. And now and then they'd bust out an odd like Laserdisc. I saw they had Blade Runner or whatever there once, and I just remember thinking, that looks awesome. I'd love to have it on me wall. My issue, I think, is that I've got a record collection. I've got a few DVDs. I don't know where I put if I was to start collecting stuff in that big sleeve format. What I would be, Sam, is if there was someone in my life who I knew loved one of those movies, I get it for them and I get them a frame as well. So they could watch it and then they could frame it.
You'd want a film with a good artwork, good poster art.
Yeah, and I get that because I've got a couple. I'm looking at my wall right now, and there's actually one or two pieces of art in inverted commas where I've just jettisoned the packaging for an LP that I quite liked. So, I've got nude sleeves here as a result of that. So I think that there's a happy middle ground. I think I'd be just as keen to get like an LP-shaped piece of artwork than I would be to actually buy it in that LP-shaped box.
Yeah, and I mean, something I feel about this is that it being exclusive to Tesco is quite funny to me.
Yeah.
And we have our little record collections, and it's nice to go to the record store and buy some records. We've been to record stores together and we found something, and the cover of the LP is great, and the content's great, and I've got this is great. I don't feel like you can get that same experience at Tesco in the DVD aisle. I don't know.
No, I mean, I've had that experience in Morrison's in the clearance aisle now, though.
Yeah.
That's a different kettle of fish, so to speak, and not just when the kettles of fish should be reduced at around 5 on a Thursday,
But I like the idea, and I like the idea of doing something different with physical media packaging. I think you kind of have to now. And this maybe smacks of how can we get people to keep buying Blu-rays, because what appeal have they got now, really, with all this streaming nonsense, and maybe appealing to the record nerds with the big artwork and the big packaging. People like Michael. I don't want to say Michael's a record nerd, but that love of laser discs, and that it's the artwork that we like, isn't it? It's not the actual content on the disc. The disc is irrelevant.
I really feel like some records really got a hold of this when I remember a few years ago when I started getting records, and the standard was that you get a download code, or on a few occasions I got a cool little USB that had the album and the artwork and a few extra bonus bits and bobs in there, and I like that, and I think that should kind of be the standard going forward.
One download code I got in a LP had little seeds in the cardboard, and you could plant the download code in a little pot and it would grow seeds from it. It had flower seeds in the cardboard, and I thought, that's lovely, isn't it? That's
and
really
could
nice.
you download the pollen then? Or
and you put your ear up to the flower.
If I had Bluetooth enabled near a bee at the time, could it transfer it?
I don't know about Bluetooth, but I had green fingers from that experience, I'll tell you, mate, because...
But we talked in the episode about that there's people who love their steelbook and all that, and I kind of think maybe it'll come to a point where we'll separate those who want to have collections into steelbooks, LPs and regular shapes, and you'll buy those and they'll all come with codes that you can then just add them to whatever media library. But that would need to be some sort of hypothetical media library that we all use, and no one's managed that yet. We all use random different things and different streaming services. I feel it's ultimately at odds with the whole concept of how we consume media now. Sorry, packaging friends.
But it would be nice to have your favourite film on a big square of cardboard, wouldn't it? I suppose you can just print that off down at the local shop.
Why don't you start putting them in fanny packs or something, commemorative fanny packs instead? I'd like that, a Blade Runner fanny pack with just a jumble of a few USBs inside that has all the different versions. That'd be nice.
I would love that too. So thank you for your question, Michael. Our next question. Now, I've been doing first names just exclusively for the names of people coming in for a little while now. Just a stylistic choice. But this one comes in from Doug Bond, who says, we get there, don't worry. Doug emailed in with a lot of recommendations for a James Bond Swirl and Swill, which was very, very good, but I don't have time to go through those now.
We'll be doing that soon enough, I think.
Thank you for those recommendations, Doug. But Doug says, as mentioned, my last name is Bond, which is both good and bad. Some people warm to me because of this, but others make poor jokes, as in, Mr. Bond, I've been expecting you, or do you have a brother or uncle called James, ... I don't. Do you two, brackets, or anyone you know, ever become the subject of unfunny jokes due to your last name? Doug says he once knew a David Brent whose life legitimately became more difficult after the UK office first aired. Thanks for the hours of entertainment, love the podcast, all that lovely stuff from Doug there. Thank you, Doug. Now, my surname, Kevin, is Chaplin, which there is a famous man with that surname in history.
But in fairness, Sam, what do? Do they come up and do an aggressive impression of a silent film actor? They're like, oi, Chaplin.
They do the little potato thing.
No, let's go, oi, Chaplin, then there'd be a prolonged silence. Yeah, you're not going to say anything, you silent movie twat, yeah?
No, it's not been that bad for me. The only thing I've ever had is like, any relation? And I had that enough that I just started saying yes.
I mean, is there? I'm intrigued to know, is there any, have you ever actually looked into it, if there's any sort of, because it's a unique enough surname that surely, I mean, God, there's enough inbreeding in England to be going around now, Sam. Awful amount of it now.
There isn't, unfortunately. To be real with you, because I respect you a great deal, there is no relation. But I would have fun trying to pretend that there was. And, because Una Chaplin was in Game of Thrones. And she is related to Charlie Chaplin.
I think she is related to you.
No, but if I then said, Una, my cousin, was in Game of Thrones, and she's, her great-grandfather was Charlie, and all that, it would be a bit of fun for me to try and do that. Or if people said any relation, I would say yes to Tom Chaplin of the band Keane.
I mean, what you described there with the relation to Charlie Chaplin, that just felt like you had to go long term with this. Like if she has a kid who gets into acting, you're related to them as well. Like the web strands go even further. I mean, that sounds awful difficult indeed. I mean,
are there any famous mans?
My issues all relate to people not being able to pronounce my name. Like, I am coming up on 10 years of not hearing my name being pronounced correctly.
I try my best.
Ever. I know you do. And I've trained quite well, in fairness. And you were probably you and Billy Keeble were probably the first.
Yeah.
But
to nearly get it.
To nearly get it.
Yeah.
But I can't help but notice, much like with the mailbag, most people I know just tend to try, avoid saying my surname. So, it's a stylistic choice, though, isn't it? So, I mean, I remember when I was in Scotland, people used to call me Muckman, but I didn't hang out with anyone who watched wrestling at the time, so I didn't feel there was any potential for that. I don't feel as much worry for someone who's called David Brent, because honestly, you've got enough latitude with Dave or Davey or Davey Boy. Brent.
Yeah.
I feel there's wiggle room there. But Bond, I feel for you there, Doug, because Bond is a very declarative, and also fuck the parents who decided to go for a single syllable first name. That's not on.
Actually, because then you've got Bond, Doug Bond,
And, anytime, I see a movie or TV show where they have parents who are about to name someone, and they're like, oh, don't call him that, because then the kids will go blap blap and make some silly rhyme. And it's always pitches like, look at these silly parents worrying about silly things. No, you think about that. You think long and fucking hard.
If kids get an opportunity, they will go for it. There was a Will Smith at my school. There was definitely a Will Smith. But I mean, I think that's pretty common. There's loads of Will Smiths.
I mean, I'll tell you what, one of my good friends for many years was called Jamie Foxx. But, unlike actual Jamie Foxx, he had one X in his surname and it was a white short man. So it didn't really happen as much. My brother, who was Sean Peter Mahan, when it came time to take his confirmation name, realising he could add a word to his kind of lexicon, he chose Alexander as confirmation name so he could lean in and become Spam. But that was very much you're not going to make fun of me because I'm doing it first.
Right, I'm in control here.
I'm in control, exactly.
But no, we haven't suffered in that way, but I can understand it can be quite irritating if you've got a famous surname.
And you know what? If you know anyone or you are someone who has experienced that, we're happy for this to be a sounding off board. If you have anyone who has that experience of having either a famous name or an unfortunately chosen name, that's something where I'm sure we're glad to hear of here on cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com. Will we do some of the jokes that you've heard a million times? Probably, yeah. But we'll also be a sympathetic ear in these difficult times.
I bet you've been expecting me to do that, Mr. Bond, huh? There you go now, huh?
Thank you, Doug, for your question. Now, Kevin, I'm going to close the mailbag there.
Okay.
Because, but play the music. Welcome to Pepsi Swirl.
Whoa! Every time you do this, I just get I feel like being punched in the face with a cold glass of Pepsi. What is this? Is this you now going to do the new Charlie Chaplin 2000 and put 2 little forks in Pepsi Max cans and do a little dance and capture the hearts and minds of the generation?
You know, you've talked about nails on a chalkboard and the brush on concrete. And the idea of any kind of cutlery going into a Pepsi can really upset. That hits me right there to the core. I just wanted to let you know, Kevin, and listeners of Cinema Swirl, that during the current circumstances that we're not discussing, we're all at home, okay? And I, to have a nice relax, have been drinking sometimes.
Yeah.
And my tipple of choice has been a gin and tonic. Yeah. And I love a gin and tonic.
I love gin and tonic. I've probably been drinking more gin now than I have been in any previous 2-month period.
The great thing is that, so I don't drink that much at home normally. I don't drink that much really anyway. Sometimes I do go out and I have a few too many.
Sometimes I have a beer myself, actually.
But for birthdays and Christmases and presents and stuff, I will get a nice gin or a nice vodka or something like that. And now I've got this supply of saved up things that I've not been drinking that I now have the opportunity to have a nice little relax and have a drink. So gin was my choice, but I ran out of tonic water.
No, you fucking are not telling me.
No, I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you that.
Okay, because gin and tonic max is not applicable. That's not allowed.
Or then maybe next time I will try that. Because
no!
What if it works, though? What if it works?
No!
What if it works? I'm willing to try it for this podcast.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Sam.
But I had some vanilla vodka left, and there was some Pepsi Max in the house, a can of Pepsi Max. This is the first time in a very long time that I've willingly consumed a whole can, a whole container of Pepsi Max deliberately. Not because it was the only thing left, but I chose to do it. And I put a bit of vanilla vodka in, Pepsi Max in there. And Kevin, it was absolutely wonderful. It was a great experience.
Where's this supply coming from? Is this just decide now, now that we have to go out for a few essential bits and bobs, I'll grab some Pepsi as well. That's just interesting.
Look, there was Pepsi. I'm not saying how it got there, but there was some Pepsi Max, all right? It was there. It was there for the taking.
This little shameful segment here, Nan, is this just you to kind of go...
Not necessarily shameful.
Oh, it's not, because I was wondering if this is you kind of going, check this out, yeah?
I'm not bragging.
Or if it's you kind of just peeking out and saying, I'm sorry, and then going back into your little,
My attitude would have been, I'm sorry, but I think now it's just, hey, this has happened. It's okay, all right?
Yeah.
And I tell you what, when I had that Pepsi Max with that vanilla vodka, it was like I was having a pudding. Or for American listeners, a dessert. The sweetness of it was intense. I guess it's because I've kind of...
Your resistance has went down is what's happened.
And so now
it's, double KO.
It tastes really sweet.
So that now means it constitutes good value for money is what you're saying, essentially.
It's like I'm having a proper Pepsi, full sugar. But I'm not having sugar. I'm having maximum taste. And it tastes like I'm having sugar.
I'm worried about this.
I've gamed the system.
I kind of feel like you've convinced yourself you've gamed the system here now.
I've won, mate. I've won. I'm quids in.
You're really high energy this episode as well, I've just noticed. You're fucking positively brimming with energy.
Is there a link, perhaps, that it wasn't today that I had it, but the effects may have lasted.
So it's not a daily dose now. We're on a daily dose.
It was a one-off.
Oh, that's a one-off.
It was a one-off, but what I feel now is that maybe it's not a one-off. Maybe I'm at the point now where I can dip back in when I feel like it as a little treat.
Well, that's how I used to feel about the mailbag. You can just dip back in as a little treat.
Yeah.
But,
and now we do it every episode.
I just listen to a plea for help as far as I'm concerned. So, I'm going to do what I can through the powers of shame, Catholic guilt and shame alone.
Okay.
To
just convince me that I've made a terrible mistake.
I think you've made a terrible mistake.
Okay.
And
It was lovely, though. It was really nice.
I know it is, but I think you're going to be chasing that.
I suppose sin does taste good, doesn't it?
It does. It tastes very good. That's why Magnum made 7 Deadly Sins, you know?
I'd love a Magnum now.
Oh, I'd love a Magnum now.
Maybe when I get that feeling that I want a Pepsi Max, I should just have a Magnum instead.
If you find yourself feeling you want to have a Pepsi Max, just have a big ice cream instead, okay? That's a healthier option, Sam, for you and for me and for everyone. But I don't want you to be chasing that metallic blue and metallic red dragon, Sam. That's all. I'm worried that you're going to be chasing that sugar high.
I don't think so, but we'll see. And I felt I owed it to you and to the listeners to make that clear that has happened and that there has been a change. And you know what? In a way, it's nice to be back in Pepsi Swell just for a little revisit.
Yeah, that's me filled with the requisite amount of existential dread for this episode. Sam, are you ready to watch yourself a bit of Eddie Murphy classic, Beverly Hills Cop? Is that where you want to be?
That's where I want to be. Eddie Murphy, watching the film.
Let's go do a cinema swirl. And we're back, and the heat is on because we're in Beverly Hills, copping around, so we are. Sam, initial gut reactions to BCH, Beverly Hills Cop.
It was quite a good film that I enjoyed watching on this episode of... look, I didn't plan out the syllables, it went wrong, but...
You had too many feelings and not enough syllables, that was the problem there.
It was good, that. Yeah.
Compared to we had a lot of romps recently. Would you describe this as romp-like? Was this a fist pumping in the air type of an experience? Or what were your main feelings?
Just a general good time vibe, you know? I mean, I'm basing this mostly on the kind of the feeling at the end of it, where it feels all kind of, not to spoil anything this early on, I mean, you've probably already seen it. I feel good. It was a good time. There was some action, there was some fun, there was some buddy dynamics, which I'm always a fan of. I love buddies. Fish out of water, fish in water.
Buddy out of water, this is what this movie is. Oh, don't let your friend go thirsty. Your buddy's out of water. Come on, go sort him out. Now, I don't know if it's too early to ask you this. But Eddie Murphy, like you got a big dose of him there.
I got a very big dose. I mean, early on, I did sort of have this feeling of, oh, that's Donkey from Shrek saying all of these lines in this film. I think that has kind of worked its way into my brain as, you know, Eddie Murphy's voice. Because, I mean, as Donkey, he was mostly just being Eddie Murphy. I was going to say, that's
the bygone era where there was no embellishment at all, where they'd be like, sorry, Ross from Friends, I don't think the people who are coming to see Madagascar quite will know that you're Ross from Friends if you keep acting. Yeah. So stop.
So Eddie Murphy was very much Eddie Murphy. So early on, I think I was thinking, oh, this is, you know, Eddie Murphy, Donkey from Shrek, saying all of, he's doing some swearing. But I got a strong dose of what I imagine is classic Eddie Murphy here.
Do you get the Eddie Murphy? Like, do you get why he was such a mainstay? Because we've had a lot of featured kind of big names in Hollywood recently, and I've asked you similarly. So why is Eddie Murphy so beloved in the 80s and 90s in Hollywood?
He's got a great laugh.
He does, doesn't he?
Have a great laugh. You know, he's a charm offensive, the lad. He's got...
And the heavy artillery is that disarming laugh, ironically enough. Like.
But he's funny and cool, which is honestly hard to pull off a lot of the time.
Very rare does someone who's meant to be funny and cool in the 80s last upon contact with the 21st century.
Yeah.
But I think I can report that I believe that Eddie Murphy still seemed, from seeing him before and after the turn of the millennium, funny and cool.
Yeah, I think he's managed to stick to it.
We open in the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan, the mean streets. And you know they're mean because we spent a lot of time looking at all the differently dressed people. And at one point, Sam, I swore we saw some off-duty warriors.
I mean, this isn't Detroit Cop, is it? So what's going on here? Why are we being shown
that's
around?
RoboCop is what you're thinking of, mate.
Yeah.
That's his jurisdiction, isn't it?
I mean, we do see, like, Detroit. This very much isn't Beverly Hills, is what we're being shown here. This isn't, glamorous Hollywood lifestyle. I know Beverly Hills and not Hollywood are not the same thing, but
and it's not the Detroit that you're used to from RoboCop either. No. In essence, it's setting as like a prequel, a mega prequel to the extended Detroitiverse, essentially.
But we get some lovely 80s music straight away. The soundtrack is great. I mean, there's going to be some big parts of this that we all need to touch on. I've already sort of alluded to it.
The soundtrack, in terms of the diversity of the soundtrack, let's just say, I do have an issue or two with it, because we start off with some bangers. We got the Neutron Dance, we got the Heat Is On. These are some like big songs. These are floor fillers, folks. It's straight and simple is what they are. If you want people to celebrate your wedding, put on the Neutron Dance. Yeah, the Heat Is On. Come on now. Any of those. But then we get into
good. Yeah, sorry.
I watched this with Joe, the intern. Every single time the music kicked in, she went bing bing like the crazy frog.
Yes. Now, I didn't know that Axel F was from Beverly Hills Cop.
Axel Foley.
Well, now I know, because I didn't even know what the character was called. But I thought it was unusual that song was just called Axel F. But I never went as far as to find out why it was called Axel F or what it was from or anything like that. And I did know it from Crazy Frog.
And obviously, Eddie Murphy was originally approached to be the voice of Crazy Frog, but he felt the portfolio in that turn of the millennium time with the donkey, you want to go Crazy Frog as well. I don't know. I mean, we don't want people saying you're an animal, Eddie, baby. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that was a revelation to me. That was another one of those things was like, oh, shit, okay, that song's from this. Much like Over the Rainbow in Wizard of Oz. Yes. I was like, oh, that's come from this. Axel F, I didn't know that it was from Beverly Hills Cop, but now I do.
So were you keeping your eyes peeled for Crazy himself? Like, if he was going to show up, like casually, like in a small role maybe, like not a feature role or anything like that?
A walk-on part for Crazy Frog. That was part of the agreement.
My point, though, about that theme song, great as it is, and boy do they know it, I counted its use 9 times throughout the proceedings of this movie, and all of the rest of the soundtrack is really great, but I can't help but begrudge something that shows us this almost Tarantino level of like, oh, these are some bangers I've not heard of from the good old days, and then just be like, actually, this one song that I really like. It's like the world's worst DJ at a party that keeps going back to his mate's song that he wants to have good rotation.
Well, it's a really good melody. It's a banger.
It's so good.
And I think when they were composing the music for it, maybe the composer who composed Axel F was like, well, I've got this and I've got all these other ones, and maybe the director or the producer was like, no, just do that one again, but different. Just do more of that one. It's like, no, do you want to listen to all these other ones? No, this is the star of the show here, this Axel F song. Play that over and over again. And, I understand it, but you're right, it is... They lay it on pretty thick, the old Axel F.
This is basically a what-if scenario. Like, imagine if Mike Oldfield was encased within a tubular bell and only allowed to do tubular bells and nothing else. I feel like that's what's happened here. His hands have been tied.
So it's called Axel F, right? And that's presumably like, this is the theme for the character of Axel Foley. But they didn't have any themes for any of the other characters, is what's happened.
Hey, no, come on, no, Judge Reinhold, we have some music for him. Come on, here we go now. Judge Reinhold, Judge Reinhold, Judge Reinhold. Oh, damn it, no, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's a banger. The soundtrack generally is great, but it relies pretty heavily on Axel F.
I mean, it reminds me of like seeing Dr. No, the original James Bond movie, where it's like, the name's Bond, James Bond, and then he played the Bond theme, and then like anytime he'd do anything, telephone call for you, Mr. Bond. Like, they had no diversification. They didn't have Madonna at their beck and call like they did when they got good, those movies later on,
So Eddie's Axel he's selling cigarettes out the back of a truck, and I'm like, hold on, this guy's the Beverly Hills cop. He's not the Beverly Hills criminal, is he?
Beverly Hills crook, more like, am I right?
Have I been duped? And he mentions Johnny Banana being one of the crime associates that he has, which I enjoyed that. And then that later bananas come up, so that's fun.
You like the callback to the banana later on.
It's Chekhov's banana, you set up the idea that there's some sort of banana character early on. You got to pay that off later, and they do. It pays dividends. Cops arrive, chasing Eddie and the gang away on a massive cigarette truck, and there's lovely 80s fun music. And this feels like one of those car chases that can only work in the Grand Theft Auto video game series.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in Scarface talking about how that had so much of... Grand Theft Auto took so much from it, but I really feel like, particularly the oddball characters, like the weird police and the wanton destruction of trucks, that is so Grand Theft Auto, 100%.
Big heavy lorry versus like little flimsy police cars that just roll out of the way if you hit them. Lots of crashing into things. This all looks very expensive.
Yeah, and a weird thing about this scene is that in the entire scene where they're smashing through everywhere and Eddie's in the back of the truck and he's hanging on to that chain, isn't he?
For dear life.
And he's hanging on for dear life. And it was very strange for me, Sam, because I'm used to seeing Eddie Murphy being, figuratively off the chain.
Right.
And yet here he was very much on the chain, literally, in that sense. And another thing this reminded me of with all the wanton destruction, particularly of lots of cop cars, was that I thought it was very Blues Brothers-esque.
Yeah.
Or the word also could be shortened to Blue Bro-esque. Or, just streamlined it to Blubrosk, which is my new word. And if I start using that, just know that's what it means. Blubrosk. Blubrosk.
Yeah, sure. Including one of those Blubrosk things is smashing into a vegetable wagon that just has vegetables written all over it. Like, on the license plate is vegetables, the side just says vegetables. Just so we know it's vegetables, it's covered in vegetables. Smash. Lots of car smashing. Yeah,
there's a point, a bus jackknifes. I think that's what...
Yeah.
A bus did a cool thing, and when a car does a cool thing and it goes... I say that's a jackknife, and I don't know if it's right.
I think if you say it with enough confidence, it is a jackknife. The real jackknife is the Jackknife Lee, who produced a lot of music for Eminem and other artists in the early 2000s.
And he was a confident producer as well.
And he had confidence to just, put big, loud guitars in there. Now, when this truck gets caught, it stops and the cops pull up on Eddie here.
There's loads of cops, isn't there? Like, there's loads of cops. It goes on for ages. How does that work when there's a big queue like that? Does the person at the front get to arrest him? Or, like, is it... I don't know.
Like taxis. Like, who's got the first one? But they go up to him and it's like, oh, Foley, I should have known it was you. What are you like, eh?
Foley? More like the Folice, am I right?
So he is a cop. He's not a criminal. This was an undercover job that he was doing, but he hadn't informed his boss that he was going to be working undercover, so he's in trouble now.
That's suspect to me, Sam, because in a way, aren't all crimes undercover work that you've not properly arranged in all walks of life?
Yeah. Well, you see, the thing is, Lieutenant, I didn't go to the trouble of becoming a police officer in the first place before I did this
and that's
undercover
on
job.
You. Yeah. You're a lieutenant of the police, and you let me arrange this? Undercover, and I haven't even got a badge?
That'd be such a good line of defence to be like, no, it's an undercover job, but so undercover that I couldn't be in the police force, otherwise they'd know that I was part of the police, mate.
I think that's a good first line of defence. So remember, folks, if you find yourself in those situations, that's the first line of defence. Second line of defence, back pocket, total recall defence. You claim that you blew my cover, and you say you don't even know who you are. Kill a few as well. That'll sell us. Kill a few.
Yeah, sure. Go for it. So we get Eddie getting told off here. Axel's getting told off by his boss. Good angry boss. Very good angry boss. He's very angry. I mean, Axel and Eddie Murphy often feels like a kind of a little kind of sassy kid, and he's still delivering some funny lines, but he does respect authority in some ways. Like, there's bits where he's like sitting down getting told off, where he does look like he's just in trouble and but still trying to...
He's meant to be like the naughty kid at school who means well ultimately. You know, like you're meant to have, like, you want to see him get his hair tousled or something like that and go, you.
The way this chat goes is like, you're a good cop, you've got great potential, but you need to stop being such a wise ass.
He's got big Bart Simpson energy, has Axel Foley, hasn't he?
He has, yes. So he's had a bad day at the office because he's been sneakily doing undercover work without telling anyone that he was doing it.
His ass gets chewed,
yes.
Which is one of my favourite expressions. I'll never forget when I was in boarding school and one of the deans was like, you have no idea what happens when I have to go up to those priests. My ass gets chewed. And I was like, ugh.
Well, there's a bit where the boss is like, and they're chewing my ass about this, and my ass has been...
Don't let him do that!
My ass has been fully chewed. I don't have any ass left. My ass has disappeared from being chewed, and as he's walking away, Eddie, this is more kind of sassy, naughty kid stuff, he's like, hey, Chief, you still... Ass ain't been completely chewed up, because you still got a bit of ass there. And he's like, oh, don't be such a wise ass. Unlike my ass, which is not wise because it got completely chewed to the point of not existing.
It would have been not the time for a playful spank on the bottom.
No,
that would, even though they were in a locker room as well, like, you know, it would have been very, very much. He read the room there, did Axel. He did a good job. And what I most as well is, right, this guy, he comes, he's like, you mayor's chewing my ass out, Foley, you're a piece of shit, and you're the worst cop I've ever seen, and then at the end, you're a good cop, Foley. No, he's not. He's a bad cop.
No, he's got talent. He's got raw talent. It's raw talent because he's Eddie Murphy.
I guess so.
And he heads home, and we get the Axel F music as he's heading home. Oh yeah, okay. So
okay. What are you, Sam? Are you more of a? Are you a? Which of the two are you? Because there's a bouncy bit, and then there's a very kind of laser bit.
Yeah, I'm the bass line underneath, mate.
You're the.
That's who I am.
That's who you are.
He gets home, and I mean, danger. There's someone in his flat, so he cautiously enters.
A criminal man here in my house.
But it's just his mate who has got out of prison with some stolen bearer bonds. You know what, Kevin? I've watched this whole film. I've watched many things with bearer bonds. I'm not 100% sure what a bearer bond is.
I think it's, as far as I know, a bond. It's like an IOU, except it's backed up by like a government or a bank. Essentially, it's like a credit note,
right? It's big flat money.
I mean, yeah, the bonds are issued certificates.
A money
as far
certificate.
As I know. Yeah. And I think basically say like your money's not been wasted because it's been put in this very nice bond. I'm pretty sure I had to take out a bond once because I remember I went to the bank and I got like, they're like, oh, hang on, we've got your special bond, and it was in this like, it looked like I had graduated or something.
Yeah.
They gave me this thing and it had like gilded letters and like sparkles on it and shit. It's like, you know, macaroni glues on it.
There's just a big IOU, but a proper official one.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be war bonds, which is basically like, you know, you're that's paying for war efforts and whatnot.
James
I know there's
Bonds.
bank bonds.
Yeah.
James Bond, Doug Bond, who was in earlier. I mean, I wonder if Doug gets that as well. Where you're like, oh, what are you? Are you backed up against the government? Are you, Doug?
When he goes out to get his bonds from the bank, can I just get some of those? You know, the
this guy want to buy a big load of bonds. Oi, bonds.
We're so sorry, Doug.
We're just having some bonds tour, okay? That's all it is.
So his mate's it's broken into his flat with some stolen bearer bonds, and it's just like, hey, I'm back. I've been in prison. I'm back. I'm your mate. I just thought I'd break in and eat your food because that's the level.
You've been gone. Where have you been for 6 months? Beverly Hills. That is where I've been. I've been in Beverly Hills.
He's been in Beverly Hills working as a security guard, which Eddie finds very funny. He finds very funny, and we get that lovely Eddie Murphy laugh that I can't do for love nor money, but if you've heard it, you know it. It's a good laugh. Yeah.
Like if Hank Hill laughed a lot, it would sound like Eddie Murphy's laugh, but Hank Hill rarely laughs. You know, it's kind of He's got that low quality.
Jimmy Carr, but pitched down significantly, I think.
Oh, that's very easy. Yeah, if you think about it like that, it's very easy to imitate. And he also, like Jimmy Carr, he moves his face side to side with a big grin, like, I can't believe you said that, or I said that, or someone said that.
I don't think we can speak for Eddie Murphy's tax history, but, we don't know.
The Heat Is On is definitely an applicable song to the subject material there.
Yeah. His mate's been working as a security guard in an art gallery in Beverly Hills. Good sassy line from Eddie here. The Hollis Benton Art Gallery out in Beverly Hills. You ever heard of it? Yeah, I buy all my art there. I mean, that's, it's just it's quite a flat delivery, sarcastic, kind of lovely stuff from Eddie.
He doesn't really, like, I feel bad earlier comparing him, in terms of, big comedy names to, Jim Carrey and stuff, because, Jesus Christ, Eddie Murphy is anything if not understated. Like, even if you compare him to, other kind of, names from the time or from before, I don't know, Richard Pryor or, Steve Martin, kind of, big comedy names, he's pretty chill. I don't know if this is because this is an early Eddie Murphy movie and he's obviously a bit more, bouncing off the walls in Haunted Mansion and whatnot. But, here, very, very chill.
He's chill, he's cool, he's very charismatic. He's not necessarily completely off the chain, wild, massive personality, but it's still a strong performance.
Now, because this is something that I was interested in, because I feel like, that line you told me there where he's just got the really sassy, cool line, I feel like there's a dozen of those sprinkled out here where it's not necessarily want the whole audience to split their sides laughing, but they want to kind of go, Eddie Murphy's so fucking cool.
That's a funny guy.
He's so funny. This is such you're a made man if you're starring in this movie. And you were telling me beforehand that you got some hot scoop. You've been doing some sleuthing.
I had a little look on the Wikipedia for this film after I'd watched it, and this paragraph, this sentence blew my mind a little bit. Sylvester Stallone was originally considered for the part of Foley.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Stallone gave the script a dramatic rewrite and made it into a straight action film. So he was offered it.
Wait, is that what Copland is?
Perhaps.
Oh, man, the web we weave.
Yeah, so Stallone not only was offered it, but he kind of changed the script quite a bit. But he pulled out because his ideas were deemed...
Wait. Oh, no, it's not Copland. He turned that into Cobra. Oh, my God, that makes sense.
Has this changed your understanding of another film?
We have got to watch Cobra now. Oh, my fucking God. Wow.
Stallone's ideas were deemed too expensive for Paramount to produce, and he ultimately pulled out 2 weeks before filming was due to start. And 2 days later, the film's producers convinced Eddie Murphy to replace Stallone, and they rewrote a lot of it, as you can imagine, because this film wouldn't be the same if it had Stallone in it compared to the film we were watching with Eddie Murphy in it. It would be completely different.
That can't happen these days, can it? Where it's 2 weeks before it's meant to start, there's a big, huge change. I've watched so many movies recently, and I feel like I try to avoid a lot of movie news and rumors and whatnot. Considering I host a movie podcast, I avoid more than I probably should.
Yeah.
And yet still, I go into movies that literally vibrate the fact that they have had a star change or a director change or a producer change or something happen in the middle of it and it feels all wrong. You couldn't have convinced me that this had any sort of a change before. This seems like destiny that has to be Eddie Murphy in this role.
Yeah, it feels very much like an Eddie Murphy vehicle from the offset.
Yeah.
And I think that's a credit to the rewrites that occurred. Mickey Rourke was the first one to be offered this.
Really?
Al Pacino and James Caan, Richard Pryor were all considered for this. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about who could have been cast in this.
None of those names remotely.
No.
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino was one of the considered ones. Mickey Rourke was firm. Sylvester Stallone also pretty firm. But then they pulled out because of differences in production stuff.
That is the most random. That is literally you've got the top trumps of stars at the time in Hollywood, and you shuffle them and you've just drawn out 7.
Yeah.
And that's who we've got.
It's mad,
no
isn't it?
rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
Well, it could have James Caan or Richard Pryor. I'm sold. What movie is that going to be?
It's kind of amazing how this movie came together.
All right, this is you've just given the movie a solid buff there. It's gotten an increase in estimation because of that.
Eddie and his mate, the security guard guy who's come back from prison, they go to a bar, and his mate Mikey He wants them to steal a car together. They're all having a laugh, and Eddie's like, "Mate, I'm a policeman. I can't steal a car with you, can I? Because
Just say it's undercover. It's no problem, man. Come on, no, baby, it's all right." I was actually distracted in this scene because of the amazing John Virgo-esque or Vergesque trick shot that I saw on screen. It was an absolute thing of beauty.
It's only a game. It's only a game.
Exactly.
His mate's like betting willy-nilly on trick shots in pool and things like that.
He's got crook roots, as Axel say.
Yeah.
You basically find out that him and his buddy here and some others were involved in kind of like some hoodlum behaviour back when they were younger. And a very sweet moment, he's like, "Yeah, when you got caught earlier, why didn't you rat me out?" And he said, "Isn't it obvious? 'Cause I love you." And he was saying it kind of silly, but it was very sweet.
Genuinely quite sweet, tender, and borderline romantic. That was very nice, and it sets up the fact that these two have a very strong friendship. They go back a long way.
They do this in such a blistering pace. I must admit,
it's quick.
That one line, which is very unexpected, goes a long way because he's dead in a moment. It's like this guy's flashed quicker than Eddie Murphy flashes his Detroit police badge later on.
I didn't think too much of it at the time, but now I'm like, okay, that's like big plot development that you need to do now because this character's going in a second, and we need to establish that Eddie really cares about this guy.
So Mikey's hanging around town, and he gets found by some bad men, and I'm very, very sorry that I wrote it like this in my notes, and I spent a good 5 or 10 minutes laughing afterwards. But poor old Mikey, sure, they give him a bop and the bang, and then he's done, so he is.
Yeah, he does get bopped and then he gets banged. Axel just gets bopped, and this is like outside his flat. He just gets bopped, knocked out for this whole thing, so he doesn't see what's happening.
He doesn't see the bop nor the bang.
No, he does. I'm sure he felt the bop, but he doesn't see it. But then, Mikey gets bopped and banged, and that's the end of it.
Sam, you promise me, all right? If you got to do me like that, you bop and bang me clean, okay? You'd be like, you'd be the hitman, and the person would be like, "Take the bop, now take the bang."
A couple of baddies here. One of them, it's Mike from Breaking Bad.
Fishing. Have we picked up a Mike Ehrmantraut suddenly? Have we?
Who I've been seeing a lot of recently because Better Call Saul's been on, hasn't it? So, yeah.
Better Call Saul, which has been on for the last, 4 or 5 years or whatever, and people have only started watching it. Turns out it's really good. It is excellent. Yeah. I have long advocated as the best television show, and Jonathan Banks, who's very young here, like a young light bulb, high-pitched version of Mike.
Yes.
He's so good. He's absolutely ridiculously brilliant. And if you've not watched Better Call Saul and you have watched Breaking Bad, my mouth is a gasp at your like it is right goddamn there. It's waiting for you. Take it.
It's phenomenally good.
Oh, and I love Jonathan Banks' Mike so much. He plays old scary man great, and he plays young scary man quite well as well.
Yeah, I mean youngish. He still looks, I don't know.
But he's got a voice like this because he's younger.
Yeah.
And his voice hasn't become
the gravel hasn't sunk into his voice yet. Yeah.
There you go again.
But yeah, Mikey's been bopped and banged. He's out here.
And the boss even says that it was a pro hit because that's how thorough a bop and a bang it was. Like, he's been looking at bops and bangs in Detroit for years.
Yeah.
And that bang job is as good a good bang up job as you'll see.
So Axel wants to take this case, and he's upset that he can't take it. And the boss is like, "No, because you've got a personal connection to this." And already you're in a bit of trouble,
reasons.
Mate. Yeah, plentiful good reasons why he shouldn't take this case. And then Axel's just like, "All right, I want to take some annual leave for no reason.
Gonna go on vacation, and don't forget, you can't spell vacation without investigation. Am I right?"
And the boss is like, "Okay, but don't butt in on this case, all right? Because if you're butting in on this case, you're in trouble." And he's like, "No, I'm just taking a vacation." And we cut to Eddie Murphy on his way to Beverly Hills to investigate this whole situation.
I love the montage here of seeing him in a dirty old jalopy, going past all of these mansions.
Yep.
Near where I live in Salford, I live on kind of the outskirts of Manchester.
Yeah.
And it's not a particularly well-to-do or fancy or built-up area area or anything like that, but very peculiarly out in the wilderness in the countryside out here, there is a particular street which is just filled with mansions of suspected Irish gang members and rogue developers, around a quarter of which are derelict and abandoned as they fled from various islands with no jurisdiction. Yeah, it's just great to know I can get that creepy haunted mansion experience if I want within 20 minutes.
So if you fancy that drive where you're looking out the window at the nice mansions, you can there was just one area where you can go and just do that.
Yeah, it is. It's good, particularly if you drive like I used to, a haunted car. You can feel a little bit like you're fitting in.
Yeah, he's checking out all the nice shops, all the pretty ladies, and all that sort of thing in Beverly Hills that they have. And he checks into a hotel. He tries to blag his way in by pretending he's from Rolling Stone magazine. And then it starts properly kicking off when he doesn't get a suite. Because he hasn't booked ahead, and they didn't have the internet back in those days. So you would have had to ring up and book a room. And he hasn't done that. But, he's trying to blag his way in.
Is this the movie's one use of the N-word?
I think so.
I'm sorry, I hate to use that phrase because obviously, when I say the phrase the N-word, that makes you think of Louis C.K., who had a stand-up routine about the N-word making you think about other words. And I'm sorry to make you think about Louis C.K. during all this, and I'm sorry about that.
But... Yes, he makes it into a race thing quite cleverly to, freak out the hotel staff into thinking, oh no, we don't want to be perceived as, that sort of person, especially if he's a journalist for the Rolling Stone who can then write all these things about you.
Joke's on him though, Sam, because it's a hotel in Beverly Hills, which means it's expensive.
Yeah, he's managed to blag the suite. And he's like, oh, well, we'll just charge you the regular room rate. And he's like, oh, okay, how much is that? It's still loads. It's still a lot of money.
It's too many.
But at that point, he's in too deep. So he has to go, yeah, fine, that's okay. Thank you. I'll check into this nice hotel.
We head to the gallery where the art is nothing less than creepy or out of a new wave music video, whichever one strikes you more.
Yeah, I tried to remember. It's like a kind of dinner party scene with rotating heads on the plates or something.
It
and it's
reminded
mannequins.
me of the music video for She Blinded Me with Science. Herbie Hancock. It reminded me of that. Loads of weird...
Okay.
Oh, you've not seen that music video?
No.
You'll enjoy that.
Okay. And he interacts with Serge, who is, I think, a Russian accented gentleman who works in an art gallery.
What to make a Serge here, and he's like, can I get you something to drink? Would you like a wine, or would you like a cocktail? Or, and I quote, I can do you an espresso with a lemon twist.
A lemon twist?
Lemon twist, Sam, what the fuck?
I'm not a coffee drinker. Sometimes I'm a cola drinker. A lemon twist with a bit of, Pepsi Max. I think Pepsi Max lemon twist actually exists as a product. But coffee and lemon? Coffee and lemon?
No,
I don't think so. No,
you want to layer your flavors, and you don't want to layer a more harsh version of something bitter on top of it. Here's a fun little coffee fact for you fun kids at home. If you got coffee and you have a little sip and go, ooh, that's a little bit bitterer than I would have liked. Get a little tiny, and I mean tiny, sprinkle of salt, and that in there, it'll make it taste less better.
And then a little lemon twist, and it'll be lovely.
No, don't do that. It'll taste like a lemon. When life gives you lemons, don't put them on espresso, okay?
The thing I enjoyed in the interaction between Axel and Serge is that Eddie Murphy, when they're talking about how much some of this art is, Eddie Murphy does the kind of high-pitched, get the fuck out of here thing. And Serge, raises his voice to that pitch, going, no, I cannot get out of here. It's quite sweet. It's just sort of a kind of 80s foreign man character, and it's that he's different and he doesn't quite, there's a bit of awkwardness there.
We're seeing two fish out of water together at once. Someone call the aquarium, the fish are out of water.
Axel's gone to this art gallery to meet Jenny Summers, who is the friend of Mikey and Axel.
Yeah, their old running buddy, who is also the gallery operator / manager.
And this was the gallery that Mikey, the guy who's been bopped and banged, worked at as a security guard.
Yeah, and this is very, very, point-and-click adventure game. I think Joe, the intern, was telling me that she played some Beverly Hills Cop game on like the Commodore or something like that.
Okay.
Like there were some kind of like point-and-clicky investigating games because, you know, like you go to the art gallery because you hear it from your friend, and then from the art gallery you go to the warehouse, and then in the warehouse you go and you find the boss and you try and deliver flowers to the boss, but it's too early in the game to meet the boss, so the boss is going to press the button to make the baddies come out.
I mean, that is what happens in the next scene.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say if you're playing Beverly Hills Cop on the Commodore 64, don't let the boss press the button that makes the baddies come.
Axel snuck into the boss's office pretending to sell flowers.
The old flowers routine,
routine. Mike from Breaking Bad is in the office too. The owner of the gallery, Victor, has a scary kind of villainy English accent. I mean, there's a kind of loaded comment here, which, I mean, the whole thing about Sylvester Stallone being in this and other actors being in this who aren't Eddie Murphy and aren't black actors, like lines like, Detroit is a very violent city, isn't it? From a white English dude has this weight to it, right? That felt like a pointed thing. And there's a lot of racial connotation to things that people are saying to Eddie Murphy's character when he comes to Beverly Hills, and I thought that's such a big part of the film.
I think this is one of those great examples of a movie of the time that has like these little bits, like little subtext in it that maybe for like some like the audience members who are black would probably have certain connotations, but for those white folks just like right over our heads.
Yeah.
And so they managed to have a movie that had maybe a more empowering character than most of us would have realized.
Yeah,
because you can watch this movie and just be like, he's just a cop, and there's like no racial stuff whatsoever. Like you can watch this where ain't the fucking politics, man. Yeah. But like there is a few little bits like that line there where they have a little sneak in there going, well, actually no, for a black man like Eddie Murphy to walk the streets in Beverly Hills, it's kind of fucked up, and no more is that evident than when he gets thrown out a window. And this is my favorite scene, where he's like, you arrested me for being thrown out a window, and he says, I'm being arrested for being thrown out of a window like 10 times. It's so funny.
It's very funny. The line of what's the charge? Disturbing the peace. I got thrown out of a window. What's the fucking charge for getting pushed out of a moving car? Jaywalking? This is bullshit. I mean, it's great stuff from Eddie here. And the fact that he gets thrown out of a window and is arrested for being thrown out of a window, it's madness. But
again, like you could watch that. You could watch that just as like a fucking as a brain dead moviegoer and just be like, isn't that silly because you got thrown out of a window? But you could watch that and have comments about police brutality and all that as well. The movie very much has its cake and eats it, which you don't usually get in the 80s.
No. So I mean, there's some bits later on that we'll get to where I'm like, okay, they've had their cake, and they've also done something terrible with another cake here. maybe they shouldn't be doing.
The police station he gets taken to looks like Harvard University.
It's so fancy. I mean, he points out how fancy it is, but it does look like a university campus. It's lovely.
Another great line here. You're being very foul-mouthed. Foul-mouthed? Fuck you.
I mean,
so he is chatting with the police investigators here in Bev Hill, and they are basically very suspicious of anyone who'd come from the likes of Detroit, Michigan to here in fancy Beverly Hills, Hollywood, California. And he immediately gets beaten and then been made to apologize to. And you get the sense that this police department is torn between wanting to be this like violent, fucked up, corrupt, racist police department, but also this police department that really strictly adheres to the book and the rules and the bureaucracy and the chain of command. So it's kind of weird. It's like watching all seasons of The Wire distilled down into a crude approximation of the police.
Yeah, well, see, what we were talking about before, I get the sense that maybe this is the sort of original concept of this, that you have an officer from Detroit where things are a bit looser, and going to Beverly Hills where things are very by the book and very strict and firm, and that's the opposition at play here, that there's two different worlds.
So the idea that Sylvester Stallone, a cop in Detroit, comes down to Beverly Hills and then the cops beat him up and have to apologise after. I mean, it's so weird.
I don't know if that was in the Sylvester Stallone script.
But like, like, if that's what, I mean, they pitch it like you can read it like that, but like it's obviously meant to be a racial thing, man.
Yeah. But I mean, it is quite funny to have them come out and be like, do you want to file charges against this officer for assault? He said sorry, but also
Did you recognise the lieutenant?
Charges. No, should I?
Yeah, it's Cohagen from Total Recall. You probably didn't recognise him because he wasn't withholding air.
No, no, I didn't recognise him straight away.
And the last time you saw him, his face was very big, and his eyes were massive.
He just blends into like that kind of 80s actor who's in things, I think, is where
the whole time, right? I swear this is really bad. I feel bad for the actor who plays him because I've seen him in a few. Like, he's one of those actors who's just been kind of like, you know, pretty much everything, right? But like every time I see him, I just expect him to do something evil. It's like Ronnie Cox. But I remember seeing him, he's like the president in like some like Fantastic Four movie I watched. I'm like, he's going to be a baddie. And in this movie, because he's the lieutenant, and even though he's like, stop that police brutality, how can we help? I'm like, he's going to be a baddie. He's going to take Axel Foley's air.
Because he's the bad guy.
He's the bad man of the 80s, Sam.
Axel's in trouble. He's been told off, but he's not pressing charges because where he's from, cops don't charge other cops with things. Come on, guys. This is what you're playing at.
The only thing cops charge these days is their friends' phones.
Jenny's here to pick him up, which is nice. And she's like, oh, you used to drive that crappy blue Chevy Nova. What do you drive now? That same crappy blue Chevy Nova. And the cops are following him. He's being tailed by the same cops from back at the police station, but they're just following him to see what he's up to.
I start to think the Axel Foley theme is kind of like, it's the scheme theme, if you know what I mean? Because once that theme starts up, a scheme is afoot. This scheme is to send them room service, and then the old banana in the gas pipe technique.
Johnny Banana paying off now. It all comes back.
Hey, I learned this one from a little somebody called Johnny Banana, huh?
An old mate of mine from my selling cigarettes out of the back of a lorry days taught me to think putting bananas in the exhaust pipe. Yeah, he sent the room service down as a distraction. He'll later say that was sincere room service, that he wanted them to have a nice meal, but it is just to distract them long enough that he can put bananas in the tailpipe, right?
I mean, yeah, because he obviously wants them to eat the banana last, and he didn't want them to have it straight away. So oftentimes I'll do that. Yeah, I'll kind of like tuck it away out of sight. Like, aha, there's a dessert. It's a banana.
So he drives off with Jenny again to kind of get away from the cops, and they can't follow because their car's full of bananas. It's a banana car. It's full of bananas. You can't go if you've got bananas in your car.
I hazard to think like the amount of bananas that were put up innocent gas pipes during this time. That sounds very dirty. But can you imagine there was a lot of that going on?
Yeah, I think this will inspire some copycat criminals.
A weird subgenre of like fetishistic pornography, like dragons having sex with castles, or dragons having like we've I don't know if we talked about this podcast before about the dragons having sex with Cadillacs, and that was a whole thing, and they do it in the gas pipe. I wonder if there is kind of like a salacious corner of the internet where there's these big muscle-bound bananas fucking cars.
I'm sorry, dragons having sex with Cadillacs.
Cadillacs.
Is that a whole...
I know that sounds like a 90s, morning car. Cadillacs having sex with dragons? It's not. It's an actual, it's a porn thing.
A subgenre of something?
It is. It is.
Okay.
And you mightn't realise this, they do it very tenderly.
Yeah. Well, that's nice of the dragons.
It is.
I mean, sometimes with like fetishes and things, I think, there's a kind of logical place where that's come from. With dragons having sex with a Cadillac, I can't put the pieces together, but I'm sure they come from somewhere, and that's fine. You know, whatever you're into, as long as no one's getting hurt.
So they're heading to the warehouse now that they give them the old banana slipperoo. And I had an issue here, which is I noticed every time Jenny says Axel, I hear the word asshole, and I was quite worried about that. She was just casually like, come on, asshole, where are we going?
So while those two are sneaking around the warehouse and noticing there's some funny business going on, the two detectives from before who had the banana car, they're getting ribbed absolutely rotten by their fellow police officers.
Oh, there's some cruel jokes here,
being
Sam.
the banana
I've heard
boys.
of this bullying in the police before, but this was disgusting. That anti-banana disguise was very disrespectful.
It's that kind of like needlessly sophisticated bullying where they've like bought some glasses and put a funny banana nose on it to give to him to make it look like he's a banana man, because it takes a lot of effort.
This is the type of bullying that I hate, Sam, right? There's one thing making the banana thing being like, hey, look, it's a banana, like the featured piece in your latest downfall. But what they say players. They go, oh, look, it's an anti-banana disguise. Oh, yeah, you'll need to wear this in case you see any banana. Like, they're giving it characteristics. They're world building. It's really, this could be a Wikipedia entry on its own now. No, don't do that.
You just need to give them the funny banana glass and go, that's you, mate. That is. You're a banana boy.
Stop giving it character and backstory. We don't need it. Oh, and also, when they're in the warehouse, they snooped the dirty bonds that...
yes.
And I don't mean George Lazenby, am I right? No. He was a dirty bond.
So Axel's now sneaking into another warehouse, a proper warehouse, big warehouse, to sort of say, oh, I'm the security guy. I'm checking the security here. How did I sneak into this place if your security's so good?
This guy was going to offer me a match. That's how dangerous this all is.
Security shit. I'm going to have to check out everything in this place and find out all the stuff because I'm the security man, and with the exception of Cleveland, this is the worst security in the nation.
I love this because it was very much like an episode of The Real Hustle, which you and I obviously like to reference ad nauseum on this show.
He swapped those briefcases, 100%.
And he didn't even need a luminous jacket here. All he was I love the idea of the fast flash of a badge that will just immediately like make someone's blood run cold, you know?
Yeah. And it works even with some resistance from some of the office workers later on who are like, oh, what, are you sure? Have you got a warrant for this? Like, he gives them both barrels then.
It's great here now. We get a scene with the two cops who are chasing him, Taggart and Rosenthal. And they have some little, like one or two little lines here that make them like go from being like curmudgeons or like, you know, problems for Axel to overcome to being like genuinely lovable characters. When he's talking to him about like, did you know that there's 5 pounds of undigested red meat in every adult male's body in the US? And he's like, why would you tell me that? It's like, oh, just, you know,
you eat a lot of red meat.
You know? I mean, I've been the guy who's talked about the red meat, and I've been the red meaty as well. So I got a lot of Ron Swanson energy from Taggart in this.
Yes, there's a great dynamic between those two, Taggart and Billy.
I'd like a spin-off with those two boys. Honestly,
yeah.
I'd watch a TV show where they bust heads. And also, I take back like almost everything good I said about the mask, in the cops there, because they're like lifted wholesale from these guys, it felt like.
Yeah. And so Axel's like, he just like jumps into their car and is like, hey, let's all be friends and get along and have a good time. That room service was for you. We're all just having fun here. We're all cops.
I've also put 3 bananas in your gas pipe, dickheads. Hey!
Why are we not getting on? We should be, solving crimes together, having a good time. Don't be following me around. Come on, let's be friends. I found the perfect place for us to go for you guys. It's going to be great. Found it on the way here. It's very conservative. You guys will have a great time. Immediate cut to a strip club. Yay! There we go.
Now, I'm not going to lie, Sam. I was on board with Eddie for most of the movie.
Yeah, sure.
I felt I was on the Eddie Murphy Express, and he was both the conductor and the man who checked my ticket, and he was very polite. But I lost him here when he was in the strip club and the kind of stream of consciousness pattern that gave us the line, your dick is supposed to be hard. I'm not on duty. I can be hard. The boss can't be hard. His dick has to be flaccid, not hard, like my dick. My dick's hard. Why isn't your dick hard? What's going on here, Eddie? Where, what?
Yeah.
Who?
I mean...
What? What?
You don't have to be embarrassed that your dick is hard. Everyone's dick is hard. All dicks are hard. Every dick is hard.
Not your dick, though. Look, his dick is hard.
I mean, he's doing a great job of making these lads properly uncomfortable. I mean, Billy is...
That's the commentary from the more confident but equally as nervous boy showing the less confident, equally as nervous boy pornography for the first time. My dick's really hard. Like, I've heard this patter before. It's familiar. They all do a police together, which is fun.
Yes, they do. It's a nice bonding experience that somehow happens. The Axel spots some dodgy blokes walking into the strip club. I mean, I guess that's all the people going into the strip club, am I right? But some like really criminal-looking dudes going into that.
They had big criminal coats on them, didn't they?
Yeah, and it's like, hey, why have they got a big long coat in nice hot Beverly Hills in this lovely toasty strip joint that we're in now? What's going on here? And so they work as a team to keep an eye on all these blokes. And one of the criminal guys looks a lot like Will Forte, which was enjoyable for me. And the two cops, they managed to apprehend the dodgy blokes who were planning a robbery. They all worked as a team.
We learned the lesson, Sam, that shotguns are no match for teamwork. And that is an important lesson to live. Now, one weird thing about the scene, though, was that before the actual, freeze, or they started doing the police bit, the entire scene, Eddie Murphy was doing what could best described as a low-level cocaine dance the entire time.
Yeah,
he was just bopping constantly like a fucking, like, I don't don't know, like a Newton's cradle. He couldn't help himself.
I loved Eddie bopping to the strip club music. It was a bit of fun. So after this debacle, when they've foiled a crime together as a team, it all goes back to Harvard University / the
Department of the Police.
Yeah. And Axel probably goes to bat for these two guys, to their boss. He fabricates a little story about what happened to
makes them out to be heroes, and it's so nice because you feel like he doesn't have to do this at all, and he has much more pressing things. But I think he realizes like his caper has really fucked over Taggis and Rosehip, who managed to fuck it all up with their by the bookness.
Yeah, I mean, so Taggart's like, yeah, no, boss, that's not really what happened. Here's what really happened. But I think the boss, you can see in his face that he kind of enjoys the Shaggy Dog story that Axel is coming up with here.
He's got Shaggy Dog story.
Shaggy Dog story.
What's that? Is that not a different
phrase,
movie?
Isn't it? No,
the Shaggy Dog, I believe. That's the
with
story
Eddie Murphy
about the Shaggy
voicing the
Dog.
titular Shaggy Dog. Shaggy Dog story. Let's find out
Shaggy
what
Dog
it is.
story. Where are you going? Oh, I'm off to see a man about a shaggy dog.
A Shaggy Dog story is a long, rambling story or joke, typically one that is only amusing because of how absurdly inconsequential or pointless it is. All right, so I've not really used the phrase properly, but just
Wait! Does that mean we're a Shaggy Dog podcast?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh, baby!
Long, rambling, inconsequential.
Ultimately futile in its point. I like that a lot.
Welcome
That's
to
great.
the Shaggy Dog podcast. The boss really enjoys that little story that Eddie came up with. You can see that like flicker of respect for that level of hustle.
I mean, that's a hard flicker to detect, but the flicker is there.
I could see it. I logged into my Flickr account and I saw that in there.
Seriously, back up your Flickr accounts, guys, because you don't know what the landscape's going to be like. You know what the landscape's going to be like.
I genuinely think it's too late now. I can't remember, but I think Flickr might be dead.
Oh, man. You know what's really funny? The other day, Joe, the intern, said to me, do you realise I think I've never seen a picture of you from between the ages of like 13 and 21? I'm like, yeah. It's because Bebo went away. That's why.
Oh, so they were all on there and you had no backup.
That was it. Yeah. That was the documentation, and now it's gone. So if you're like, I don't know, maybe some Russian dating site might have it in there, but that's about it. So there you go. Back up, folks, Oh, great line here.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Why would you go and fuck up a perfectly good line?
And so after that, 2 new cops get put on Axel's case, and immediately he gets them with the same room service car gimmick.
They should have noticed the music, Sam. If you trail someone and it starts with dun, 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 you know what the problem is? The amount of times people get in a car and they're like, right, we're going on our mission now, and then the music starts going dun, 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 and they think, oh, cool music for us being on a mission. No. That's the music to imply that an Eddie Murphy-like character is going to figuratively put the banana in the gas pipe of your life.
Yeah, and he's like slagging him off, ripping him to pieces, driving through red lights to throw him off.
That felt like a little bit too dangerous to be like a reliable technique. I'd love to see another cut of this where he's like, so long, suckers, and there's like a 10 car pile up, and then his broken body is put in handcuffs.
Credits roll, and
and then Crazy Frog comes off, and he's like, bing, bing, and he's on an invisible motorbike, so he doesn't really get any of this.
But yeah, it's a high risk gambit, and it's presented as like silly jape. Oh, he's really showed those 2 dorky cops what he's up to. Now, I touched on earlier, there's a little bit of poorly aged stuff here.
Yes.
So when Axel comes to, I think the golf club or the country club or something,
it's a country club confrontation.
Yeah, it's a classic country club confrontation. He's trying to get to speak to Victor, and it's a posh restaurant. He wants to come in, and his approach here, and he's been doing this kind. He was a flower delivery man before. He was a security guy in the warehouse. He's done this kind of character work.
He even did it to disarm the baddies in the strip club. He pretended to be like a drunkman.
Exactly, but he puts on a very silly camp voice.
This was an awful carry on, wasn't it?
To try and ask for Victor because he's called Ramon, and he's been in a relationship with Victor and has an STD of some sort. And this was in the 80s.
As soon as he started, I swear, I was like, don't fucking say AIDS. Don't say it. Please, 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 please.
And he doesn't, but it's like, I mean, the implication is there.
He says something else, but then he's like, you better hurry up before body parts start falling off him. So what they were trying to imply there, yeah.
In amongst a climate of gay panic. I mean, this is one of those things that I kind of knew Eddie Murphy's stand-up for being very bad about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, his ploy works, But oh boy, has it not...
I mean, Eddie Murphy, the real-life comedian's ploy. Because, I mean, many would make the argument that material was a ploy of sorts.
This character work here that Axel's doing does work, but I think it's worth touching on that, like, oh, Jesus, that's not aged brilliantly and probably wasn't very fucking good at the time.
I still remain somewhat amazed in the movie's general decent standing, because I feel like we give most of these 80s movies a good kick at the tires and then some, and I feel given the context of this, and there's so many, like when you're telling the story, like there's so many easy low-hanging fruit jokes of the time that they could have made and they don't.
No, I mean this is perhaps the most egregious thing in this film, I would say.
They found an easy target, let's just say, for the 80s, and they ran with it, and it's probably the most distasteful bit of the movie.
And he manages to get to Victor. Mike from Breaking Bad gets thrown into some fruit salad, so that's fun.
Because we all wanted to see that in Breaking Bad, though, didn't we? Like, you know, and that's the thing about like watching Better Call Saul, is that it's so sad to see Mike go through this journey, and you know that he's just going to get covered up in fruit salad.
A little bit like cream on his forehead or something.
Covered in fruit salad. I broke my boy. I broke my boy.
And Axel's been... Jesus. Axel's been arrested again for this country club confrontation.
And Cohagen's on his ass because of this.
Oh, but they're all like listening to his story about Maitland being a smuggler. They're like, hey, okay, what's going on here? Why are you tailing this guy? And he explains, and the chief of police is very cross, who we've not seen before. The actual chief of police comes down.
An even bigger boss.
Yeah, the big boss of the police.
With even more chewed ass.
He's got no ass. I don't know if you saw that brief shot of his butt, but there's nothing there. It's just
nothing there.
He just got a long back.
And a long history of having his ass chewed.
Yeah, he does. And so they listen to his story and they're like, yeah, maybe it's a smuggler. And there's a whole thing about coffee grounds being used to disguise the smell of drugs. Very clever. But like, if you've not got any actual solid evidence that we can go with, for legal we can't do anything. You're going to have to go back home, mate. Otherwise, you're going to get in trouble. So off you go. Clear off. Get out of town.
Victor confronts Jenny. And this is one of these situations where you know the movie is not going to settle this business in the courts of law. Even though Victor is a very respected businessman, he will be a corpse by the end of the movie, and that is the justice of the 1980s in action movies.
Axel manages to convince Billy to help him blow this case wide open. So they go to pick up Jenny, who's just had this chat with Victor, and they all want to go and sneak into the warehouse, apart from Billy, he's staying behind to keep an eye out.
Billy Rosebud wants to hang back. He reckons if he goes inside, it's no good for him. And like, I will say, for Beverly Hills Cop, it has, I'd say, a good 35% of it is snooping around warehouses.
Yes.
And I would say that makes it very similar to my favourite media franchise of all time, Shenmue, or Shenmue as it's also known. But the problem about Shenmue, or Shenmue, is that the main character has no charisma. So if you happen to watch Beverly Hills Cop, but you find that that's too charismatic a presentation, and you want some warehouse snooping, that's the franchise for you. I just feel like if you get to recommend Lost and Skate, I get to recommend The Thing.
Okay.
And it's pertinent here.
So I worry that in that game, they'd open a crate and just be, oh, there's some nice coffee in here, that's great, and then they'd move on to something else.
literally that. Or he wouldn't even say, he'd go, what's this? And then that's it. You go on to the next thing to pick up.
But there's cocaine under that coffee.
Whoa! Coffee up top, drugs down low. It's a 1980s box.
And as soon as they discover the cocaine, the baddie's like, hey, welcome to the party. And put guns to Eddie and Jenny's heads. They're in trouble.
I like the organisation. It's like, look, there's been an issue here. They found our drugs. Okay, escalate. How much? Top level of escalation. Like, please, if you could. All the guys down there, get them guns. Do you want to go yourself as well, boss? Yeah, I should probably throw my head and make an appearance.
Yeah.
You know, because we are escalating to maximum escalation here. So yeah, I should probably be seen, you know?
Yeah, I mean, so Victor's here now. Jenny's getting taken away.
Axel's getting bopped.
And Axel has got another sassy line, which is, don't worry about me, we've got coffee and cocaine here, we're going to get wired and have a big party. I mean...
But what ways are they going to... That could be any way, Sam, now. Are they going to drink some coffee, thereby getting wired, and then have this cocaine, and assumedly that's the party? Or are they going to do some cocaine and then have the most aggressive cup tasting you've ever goddamn seen? Because that seems like it would be a much different party.
Look, they're both stimulants, is what I'll say.
And did you know that caffeine is a drug as well? And did you know that heroin's a drug? Yeah. No.
So that seem a bit silly now for drinking your heroin.
Oh, with your heroin, yeah? Think about it. It's a drug.
Mike Ehrmantraut admits to killing Mikey, then beats up Axel. And there's some of the faces that Billy is pulling while he's watching the baddies get away and all this stuff. He's kind of uncertain, like, it's kind of, I'm not sure what to do.
The face of Sam, it's the face of a stone cold killer, because Rosefoot here comes in and he just pulls out his tiny little gun and he's just like, freeze, motherfucker. And then freeze forever because of rigor mortis, because you're dead.
After he finally goes in to rescue Axel gets punched some henchmen in the face. Billy shoots a guy. Yeah.
He does blood over here. This guy is stone cold killer.
He does some proper killing. He's does some proper cop work with his little spud gun that he's got.
And they decide that they can't resist not doing illegal police work. So, in for a penny, in for a pound. Yeah, they go to the big baddie house. And I like this trope so much that there's just like, here's the baddie and here's where he lives and that's his base. Yeah, like there's a compound with men with machine guns in Beverly Hills.
Well, this all felt a bit kind of Scarface-like, that you've just got this big mansion with loads of henchmen around it and you're trying to get in.
Well, am I very naive? Because, like, I know that Scarface is, like, based off of, a lot of real-life crooks. Yeah. Actually, Tiger King is a documentary that was on recently, and the guy in it is the inspiration for Scarface. He talked about
I'm Scarface.
Hey, I'm Scarface. I used to take big bags full of money into the bank as well. So, like, I mean, yeah, I wonder, is it naive of me to think, like, well, obviously in Miami in the 80s there would have been drug lords in houses that had machine gun men, but not in Beverly Hills. No.
Yes, I think in Beverly Hills as well there would have been.
Really?
Yeah, probably.
I'd love the idea of this, like, someone having, like, one of your neighbours happens to have a private militia. In the days of now of streaming, you wouldn't get away with that, like, you'd be picked up.
Nah, well, not now, but I'm sure there's been some crime in Beverly Hills, Kevin.
Yeah, but base crime, Sam? I'm talking about not base level crime that happens in bases.
Big mansion compounds with henchmen and guns and stuff.
And reactor cores.
Yes. Taggart's arrived while they're trying to break in, and he's like, no, we shouldn't be doing this. And oh, come on, mate, come on.
Oh, shit, here it
get
goes.
me big gun, here we go.
Hey, he's got his big shooter, yay.
And it's a lovely sunny day, and it's
great day for a bus.
Look, as serious as it is, it would be kind of nice to play guns in the garden on a lovely summer day, wouldn't it?
Sam, when you played guns as a child, you never did it in the rain, did you?
No, you'd be out in the sunshine. You'd be rolling around doing gun stuff.
It's lovely that it's like, I didn't even have to check that it was a standard thing, that one of the things and activities you played as a child was guns.
No.
Because it was for us as well. Except sometimes it'd be guns and lightsaber, because there was one lightsaber in the gun box.
But what I'm saying is that as much as this is a serious thing, it's quite fun that it takes place in a big, lovely garden that you get to play around in.
Oh, yeah, no, it's nice. And it's, I wouldn't mind.
You'd hate to have hay fever during this kind of bust, wouldn't you?
Because that lawn does look freshly mowed, you're right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hunkering down, and there's a lot of chest high cover, but that would be near some obviously trimmed lawn, so that could be hay fever havoc right there. I'm really sad at this point in the movie when they're storming the baddie's house that I only recognise now that the baddie kind of looks like slightly evil Phil Collins.
He does, and I mean, he can see them coming in the air tonight because he's got a security camera system that can detect where they are, and he sends people out to go and get them. Billy and Taggart, I mean, that dynamic duo, they're falling over each other trying to climb over a wall, they're getting up on each other's shoulders and falling down.
It is very hard.
Give someone a boost.
Yeah, I resent how easy Naughty Dog have made that seem to be, and it's not. It's hard.
Getting over a fucking wall.
Ooh, hang on a second, I'll press the fucking track. No, it's really hard.
It is hard, to be fair.
No, tell you what, just put put your full weight on the palm of my hand. Yes, with your shoes.
Yeah.
This is fine. This is represented by a simple press of the button. Well, I happen to have the largest palms in the universe, Mr. Trent.
But so it's all like there's a bit of slapstick of those two falling around and stuff, and then it suddenly gets very serious as we have the big Scarface type shootout.
Big shootout.
Billy one-shots a guy.
Billy kills another guy.
Yeah.
Rosenhart, Deadeye right here, killing fools.
He can shoot like nobody's business.
He's got notches on his belt, that's what I'm saying. Sam, is this shootout, like I thought, a little bit out of place in an otherwise quite kindly spirited movie?
Yes, it does feel very sudden that things are getting shooty level serious.
Like we go from bananas and gas pipes to bullets and holes and hearts quite quickly, don't we?
Well, that's the contrast is that those two cops sticking around in a garden, and then it's like the serious blood and guts, people are getting shot, like it's all happening. I know we've had some shooting.
Act 1, room service. Act 3, memorial service. It takes a turn.
But it is some good action stuff. We do get some pretty good action sequences here.
I was not expecting it. I was not expecting this level of action. Like I'd forgotten. I thought this movie was a lot more comedy forward. And I think maybe Beverly Hills Cop 2 and 3, I think played with the comedy a bit more. It was a bit more comedy forward that happened to have a little bit of action. Whereas this seems to be an action movie that has a little bit of comedy sprinkled throughout.
It's got quite a bit of comedy. But we can't forget that big lorry chase at the start where there's stuff crashing all over the place. So we're kind of coming back to that area now. That big bombastic action stuff is happening.
Now, here's a problem I have with Victor and his baddies.
Yes.
He has got a very undiverse gun force. His gun force is entirely machine guns. You look at even just the three-man team that assault there. You've got a shotgun, you've got a handgun, and you've got a little mini Winnie shooty, which is what Rosenberg has. That's the official name for that particular firearm.
Yeah.
So, like, generally speaking, I would imagine you'd want to have at least one alternate type of gun in your group of gunsmen, or at least leave one group of henchmen fallow for a year or something like that. So, it felt like he didn't know what he was doing here. He deserved to be killed.
Billy, I love the fact that he does this thing of holding up his badge and saying, "Police, you're all under arrest," to a bunch of men with machine guns that are shooting at him, and it doesn't work.
There is some game, I'm trying to think what it is, there is some game where there is like a "you're under arrest" button, but like if someone's shooting at you, I think this is the police too. You can literally be like, "Stop, police!" and there's like 20 people with guns, and you can try.
You can give it a go. And he's on the floor with Taggart talking about the end of Butch Cassidy, which, I've got no idea. But Axel properly shoots the fuck out of Mike from Breaking Bad.
He does.
The tone is shifting a lot here, because that's a brutal death.
It's a brutal death, and he kneel shoots him as well. He's knelt down and that's the most fearsome handgun death there is.
Yeah. But then he gets shot by Victor in the arm.
It's a crashing and smashing here now. Yeah, it's blood everywhere. It gets quite gruesome here, yeah.
Victor's got Jenny hostage. The thing he says when Axel's pointing a gun at Victor, who's got Jenny hostage, like, "Oh, careful, old boy, you might hit me." The implication there is like, "I know you want to shoot this bloody woman, but don't hit me, an Englishman, old chap." Doodly pip. I don't know.
Go say great English impersonation, by the way.
Thank you very much. That's
really good.
That's what they all sound like. But the police lieutenant, he busts in to save the day.
And they shoot the ever-loving bejesus out of Victor.
Yeah. He gets proper. He does like a falling down the stairs, covered in blood and bullet holes.
Like, he shot so much that later on, when they tell the chief of police, "We've shot respected businessman turned criminal enterprise suspect Victor." Like, I would imagine later on in the morgue, when the boss pulled back the sheet, he would, "Jesus, this many times, Jesus." But we thought he was he didn't get that. "We thought he was a respected businessman. I will only shoot him the once. That'll teach you." No, they shot him so much that the next Bison wannabe will feel it.
And so that lieutenant, who previously was kind of like doing that little flicker at the good story, he then has to come up with his own story about what happened to the chief of police. He's learnt from Foley, and he's lying. And the chief is like, "Oh, is this what really happened?" And Taggart's learnt to pretend and keep lying. The moral of the story is just lie.
Yeah,
just
right.
Lie.
Lies are great. And you know what's really lovely and encouraging about those lies, Sam, is that it's almost like they're infectious, because once he lies, then other people around him are compelled to lie as well. And I like that, just seeing everyone naturally start to lie like that.
We're all comfortable lying. Everyone's happy lying. We just love lying.
I know. Actually, Sam, I'm not comfortable lying. It was a lie.
So, I mean, we're kind of at the sort of the end of the movie here, but...
Who would have thought we could have fixed corruption with simple lies?
I mean, they ultimately killed the bad guy and everything was fine, but it's just the way they went about it was probably not procedural.
No, it was... rarely is cold blood procedural.
No, but... The bad guy died, and he was guilty, so it's fine.
And the bad guy may have died, but the police department of Beverly Hills paid the tab at the hotel. So, yes. I mean, he didn't die in vain, Sam.
Some very cute stuff here of Billy and Taggart being sent along to make sure Axel leaves town. And he's like, oh, you guys came to see me? Like, no, we've been told to make sure you leave. But hey, we're your mate. We're having a good time. We'll pay the tab on the hotel. And so when Axel hears that the police department's paying the tab, he's like, can I buy some of those robes as well? And then when he gives one to Billy, tries to give one to Taggart, Taggart's like, no, you keep it as a souvenir. He's like, I've got 3 of them in my bag, mate. You know what? That's very relatable, the idea of stealing stuff from hotels. You can't steal the dressing gowns now, I don't believe.
No, that's a risky move right there.
They've cottoned onto it.
I'll tell you what, there was a day I knew that I learned the lesson very, very early on in life, because I think it was like 2003 or 4, one of the first times I was in a hotel by myself.
Yeah.
And I went to this hotel, it was very nice, and they laid out a robe, and the robe said, please accept this robe with compliments. And I was like, wait, this robe with compliments? So all other robes ever were like... So I've always been of the opinion that a robe has to give you its permission for you to take it.
Right, yeah.
It needs a note. I love he says to Billy that he loves him as well.
Yeah, sweet.
That's a nice, sweet story. And it's good to know that in 1984 that we learned the lesson that it was okay for men to tell other men that they loved them and it was all right.
It's nice. They're all mates and they're like, hey, one drink's not going to kill us. Let's all have a nice drink together. I know somewhere nice. And it's like... And that's Taggart saying that.
Well, look, guys, we do have a long drive ahead of us. Why don't we have some alcohol first before getting behind the wheel of a large automobile?
And if the police pull us over, we'll just lie. Roll credits, guys. End of the film. Everything's all right.
That stare at the end that Eddie gives is a little bit penetrating.
A little bit, yes.
Like, I felt like I spit up a little bit because it just felt like it went right into me, and it filled me up.
It was fine, but just that brief freeze frame of it. Something about a brief freeze frame was fine in the 80s, now implies some sort of, terror or danger.
I was waiting for it to go... What do we know about Eddie Murphy? Or something to that effect, yeah. Well, Sam, there we go.
We made
Beverly Hills Cop in the books. Mm-hmm. I love you. I was just wondering what you thought of the movie.
Love you too.
And what you thought were... I thought we had a lot of fun talking about Beverly Hills Cop. When I was watching the movie, it's always a good sign when I'm watching a movie and I'm worried that I'm just having a very good time and it's not going to make for an interesting episode. I took very few notes because I was just really enjoying myself watching this movie.
I had the same thought, and I hope this doesn't come across, but I felt the same way about making notes, and I was like, I would have more fun watching this if I wasn't trying to write down things that maybe I could call back and come up with funny stuff about. You'll see that I haven't really nailed that brief. But that was because this film is just an enjoyable good time. And I really loved the whole buddy situation dynamic between Axel, Billy, and Taggart. That's a fun dynamic.
It makes me want to show you movies like Lethal Weapon and some of the more the kind of the buddy cop fish out of water. The chief, the mayor, my ass. I mean, these are tropes that are.
I want to see some more chewed asses. Is what I want to see.
I'm not going to lie, Sam. I really feel strongly about doing Cobra at some point because you having seen this and then we watched Cobra and you see that's what he did with the guts of this movie.
I'd love to see it.
Oh, man. I mean, does this make you kind of go, all right, Eddie Murphy, I get it now? Or is this movie such a construction, I won't say a puff piece, but it's such a concerted effort to get Eddie Murphy over the eyes of the viewing public? Do you feel you even have a true sense of him having watched Bev Hill Cop?
I think I do. I think I've got a more rounded sense of who Eddie Murphy is because I had the, Nutty Professor, Clumps, Donkey guy, and I had the controversial comedian guy, and I didn't have anything in between.
Yeah.
And, barring some things in this, I get a better picture of Eddie Murphy's range and his whole
brand, right? Like
his brand,
what he's all about,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I get a better sense of that, and it was really enjoyable, and he is someone who is a good time to be in the presence of when you're watching a movie, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like he's a guy who you can try and draw lots of parallels with other people, because I think like Adam Sandler, who similarly had SNL roots, had some edgy-ish stand-up under his belt, a couple of feel-good raunchy movies, and then he had like a load of family-friendly shite, and then it was like finding a second life by pure attrition with some excellent Netflix movies.
Yeah.
But I feel Eddie Murphy's just like really, really, really not like, he's not like a lot of his contemporaries from the 80s and 90s. He's not a Jim Carrey. He's not a Steve Martin or whatever. I feel like he's more of an enigma than most of the people that we've covered on this. Like John Travolta levels of enigma.
Yeah, in some ways the path he took is quite familiar, but it goes in all sorts of different directions with Eddie Murphy. Like Mike Myers, I was thinking, has a similar-ish route.
But Mike Myers, when you see Mike Myers get interviewed, and I think the interview is so fucking important. I went back and I actually watched a Colbert interview with him, with Eddie Murphy, for like the recent Dolomite movie that was very well received. I thought, well, this is him now. He's well received. It's in a very friendly atmosphere. And he was so fucking weird, Sam. He was like, Colbert said to him, what would you say to young, 18-year-old Eddie Murphy standing out on the comedy circuit? And he was like, wow, man, just great things, and wow, what a great career.
Yeah.
So he's like a fucking alien at space. I feel sorry for him, but I feel like I don't know enough about him to actually feel sorry for him.
But this young dude, young, funny, charming, cool guy, I had a great time watching this film.
This guy's an undeniable star here. I mean, that much sung through. It aged better than a lot of the other movies of this ilk that we have watched.
Yes.
And I didn't hear much in the way of a grumble from you. Is this a movie that's got any issues with you? I mean, how are we thinking in terms of scorage?
So it doesn't. Well, it has some issues, but not many issues. Jenny doesn't get to do that much, and that's. There's things like that I don't want to excuse it and be like, it's the 80s, but also it's the 80s.
It's part of it. It's part of the viewing experience, unfortunately.
I don't think this is one of the best films I've ever seen or anything like that. I just had a good time. I had fun.
Would you want to watch 2 and 3?
Yeah, I'd want to check out the dynamic between the trio of boys who I hope return.
Because I've seen 2, but I don't know if I don't think I've seen 3. I'm pretty sure I've not, but I'm not sure. I don't know the trajectory of the. That's the thing. I'm not sure the trajectory of these movies. I'm not sure if it's like a Rocky trajectory or if it's Godfather trajectory or if it's something or if it's a Jaws trajectory.
I'd be curious to see where they take it and what happens, and whether the tone changes to more out and out comedy.
Yeah,
but I had a really fun time watching this. There's no massive things that are docking points from it, but just generally it's good. It's good. I had fun. Yeah, Eddie Murphy's great. There's some other great performances.
Okay, so come on, tell me then, what's your Star Wipe rating? You're using the word good a lot.
Yeah.
And you've been on a hot streak of some very, very well-received movies on this podcast.
I have, and maybe that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about just going for the same score time and time again. But you know what? I'm going to give Beverly Hills Cop 4 Star Wipes.
You heard it here first.
Hey, thank you for listening to another episode of Cinema Swirl. This episode was produced by Kevin, it was edited by me, Sam, and the music was also by me. If you want to support the show directly and get access to our monthly bonus show, Cinema Swirl, patreon.com/Cinema Swirl is the way to go. If you want to follow us on the socials, we're at Cinema Swirl on Twitter and facebook.com/Cinema Swirl on Facebook. If you have any questions, queries, comments, or other stuff for the mailbag, then please send them on in to cinemaswirl@gmail.com. That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com. Please do keep recommending the show to friends or leaving reviews on whichever podcast thing you use. Hey, we're now on Spotify as well, if that's your preference. You can head over to Spotify and search for Cinema Swirl. Alright, see you next time. Bye.